Kia ora, this is Chris with Earth Sciences New Zealand. Yeah, that's right, Earth Sciences New Zealand. Look, we used to be NIWA, you know that. But NIWA has combined with GNS to create Earth Sciences New Zealand. Eventually, Metzer is coming into the fold to create a really terrific organization, kind of an earth science, all hazards focus. So that's coming. That'll evolve with time over the days, weeks, and months ahead. In the meantime, we're going to cover the days, weeks, and months ahead as well, but more from a weather and climate perspective. This is the seasonal climate outlook for July through August. Here's what you need to know. I'm going to disappear, go full frame. Look, we're going to have an increase of northerly quarter winds. So that's northeast, north, northwest. So the word north is involved, okay? And because of that, New Zealand, much of New Zealand will be at risk for wetter than usual conditions over the next 3 months, especially the top of both islands. So the upper North Island, the upper South Island. And because of those airflows favoring a northerly quarter, i.e. lack of southerlies, warmer than usual temperatures are favored as well. Coming back on screen. So let's start things off with rainfall. And you can see for the top of both islands, so the upper North Island, so we're talking Waikato, Northland, Auckland, Bay of Plenty region, this area right in here, this is where above normal rainfall, if it's going to happen the next 3 months, that's an area that is favored. Likewise, the top of the South Island. Nelson, Tasman, Marlborough, Buller, these two regions have the best chances for above normal rainfall. Now, going full frame and off screen, you can see there are some other areas. So the remainder of the North Island, the east and the west side of the North Island, above normal rainfall is certainly an option or a consideration, but there's a bit more uncertainty. So as a consequence, we're saying somewhere between normal or above normal. And for the east of the South Island, same idea, somewhere between normal and above normal. It's the other end of the spectrum for the west of the South Island, with airflows not favoring the west or southwest. That means rainfall could be below normal. We have to watch the hydro catchments. So we're saying normal to below normal. So in that spectrum, in that range for the west of the South Island. Right, let's go to temperature for the next 3 months. And with the, lack of southerlies, warmer than usual ocean temperatures, we're looking at above average temperatures. Look, it doesn't mean every single day of every single week. Recording this on the 3rd of July, okay? So around the 7th, the 8th, the 9th of July, there's likely to be some chilly temperatures going full frame for the eastern part of the South Island, maybe parts of the North Island. But look, that's a blip. That's 2 or 3 days. So look, this is a 3-month outlook, not a 3-day outlook, not a 1-week outlook. So we're talking, themes here. The theme is for above average temperatures for all of New Zealand. Some places may be more above average than others. Put simply, a colder than average 3-month period, pretty darn unlikely. So that's the broad strokes. Let's get into a bit of detail, and we're going to talk about the weather space. So we're picking things up here on the 4th of July. Again, recording this on Thursday, the 3rd day of July. Pretty big low. Look, this has been giving a lot of rain for much of the North and South Island for the country, full stop, but particularly the upper and western part of both islands. There'll be some heavier rain for eastern parts of the North Island as well, some thunderstorms. So this low is going to be creating some active weather for the first couple days of this outlook period, i.e. 3rd, 4th, 5th of July. So just to refresh our sort of our bearings or set our bearings here. So the red, that is where high pressure is favored, higher than normal air pressure. The blue, that is where lower than normal air pressure is favored. Putting my glasses on so I can see. Look, you can see that this is why we have the active weather on the 3rd day and 4th day of July, this low to our west. But watch what happens as we put this into motion. That low moves across the country and eventually shifts east, and that's why it's going to cool off. Now watch, I'm going to put the temperatures on here and zoom in just a little bit. You can see what I was talking about. 6th, 5th, well, I guess the 5th. I take that back. So the 5th, 6th, 7th, you can see a bit of coolness, a bit of blue for the eastern part of both islands. You see that right in here? So that will be, there'll be a cool period, but for a very small part of the country. And watch, that goes away. By the 9th, it's gone. 9th into the 10th. So yeah, 3-4 days, some cooler temperatures, but it won't last long. Let's go back to the surface map. We'll maybe talk temperature in a bit. So this is the 6th. So this puts us on Sunday the 6th of July. High pressure coming in. So we should see, at least catch our breaths. We've had some active weather the past, 10 days. And this big old high, the reason we're going to see the cool temperatures, high pressure this time of the year tends to lend itself. Long nights, chilly temperatures, cool air can be kind of manufactured. But look what's happening already as we zoom out to the west. Another big low. Look, when you see these deep blues or these deep reds, that means the air pressure is forecast to be really unusually low or really unusually high, depending on the color. So the deeper the color, the more unusual the prediction of high or low pressure, depending on what color we're looking at, right? So low pressure over the Southern Ocean. This is the 7th of July. This would be Tuesday. And still looking at pretty settled weather for much of the country, so that's good. Some chilly temperatures, eastern areas, as we talked about. And then as that high slips east, it makes way for this low to start moving in and start dragging down, yep, you guessed it, these northerly kind of quarter winds. So northwest to northeast, somewhere in that zone. And that's going to warm things up, and it's no coinkydink that we see these reds popping up on the map, he said, because that is going to we're going to return to a warmer flow, a warmer regime. And because that low gets closer, so the 11th, that would be roughly later next week. So late next week, around the 11th, we could start looking at more active weather across the country. And this is going to be a theme. So that moves over, and then there's more low pressure to the west. So this is something we're going to have to be contending with. We're expecting low pressure to favor areas west and northwest of New Zealand for the next 3 months, and high pressure to favor areas to our south and east. So put quite simply, what you're looking at right here, if you were to smooth out every day of the next 3 months and you come up with a theme, a 90-day surface pressure anomaly, what was the theme when you take all 90 days into consideration, it's probably going to look something like that on screen. And because of that expectation, that is driving our thinking for warm flows from the north, and there are also moist flows from the north, as well as the chance for these big rain events. Whenever our air comes from the north, as you can see right here, so we're looking at temperature, not so much at the ground, but 1,500, 1,600 meters above us. It gives us a good idea of the theme or the flavor of the air. And you can, look at this. You can trace these colors all the way back to the Coral Sea and up toward Cairns and up toward Papua New Guinea and certainly New Caledonia. This has subtropical and proper tropical connection. So what we're going to see are these episodes whenever high pressure moves to our east and low pressure approaches from the west or northwest, we're going to be tugging down this warm air and this very moist air. And this moisture coming from the subtropics and tropics, that is fuel for heavy rain. So because of this, we have mentioned in the outlook, so go to the website, Earth Sciences, I should know this, gosh, Earth Sciences NZ, earthsciences.nz. Yeah, that's the one. I should know that. Double check it. But go to the website. It's there. Or just search NIWA and it'll be redirected. I hope the boss isn't watching. But you'll see we have articulated the risk for big rain events and flooding rain events because of this pattern that is expected. So I'm using the weather expectation over the next week, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th of July, to kind of as a proxy of what the next 3 months will shape up to be. And why is that? What is driving this? Well, let's go to ocean temperatures, why don't we? So here we go. Let's move things forward. And as of the 1st of July, you can see that over the western Pacific area, we have warmer than usual ocean temperatures. Not crazy unusual, but it's warmer than usual. We see some deeper reds. That is also around the Tasman Sea in our neck of the woods. Not everywhere. There are a few isolated pockets, if you want to be real pedantic, of cooler ocean temperatures off the east coast, near the coast. But again, that's the exception, not the rule. And you can see farther east, getting rid of that, you can see some cooler temperatures over the central and eastern Pacific. Now, if this isn't La Nina, if there were deeper oranges and reds here and deeper blues here to the east, that would be La Nina from an ocean perspective. You need that dipole That is really cool to the east, really warm to the west, and that creates that dipole needed to drive weather patterns that is akin to La Nina. But we're kind of there. It's La Nina-like. It's sort of La Nina, not really isk, and that will help underpin the type of airflows where our air is coming from the east and northeast. Also, it should be noted, and I will note it, that the ocean temperatures around the Coral Sea and the Tasman Sea closer to home, these warmer than average ocean temperatures will help give us more water vapor, and that water vapor is fuel for rainfall. I'm not saying it's a huge piece of the puzzle, but it sits somewhere. So that's the ocean temperatures, and because of that, the response to the ocean is that we have these weather patterns. See if I can bring up velocity potential. Where'd it go? Nope, that's not it. There it is. Velocity potential. I knew I could get there. Look at this. So for July, we are expecting rising motion around New Zealand. And then as we move through August, you can see how that kind of persists and even into September. Yeah. So as a consequence, we're going to find rising air favored over the tropics and subtropics. And as a consequence, that is going to help kind of be the I guess the catalyst to these lows that we're going to see popping up over to our west and northwest, bringing warmer temperatures into New Zealand. Again, we got to watch out for some big rain events over the next 3 months. What about the next 5 weeks? Let's go to our NIWA 35. Here we go. In the next 5 weeks, well, so for the week beginning the 1st of July, so we're going back a little bit at a couple days here. Yeah, you can see why we have wetness for the top of the South Island, much of the North Island, particularly from Auckland southbound. What about week 2? Let's see what happens. Yeah, so for the week of July 8th to July 15th, look at that. More wetness favor for the top of the country, eastern parts of the country, Bay of Plenty, Northland and Auckland. Perhaps a bit of dryness for the Manawatu, where they could use the rain, by the way, in the eastern Manawatu, particularly over toward interior Hawke's Bay. We'll show you that in a second. Dryness favored for Fiordland, Otago. Wetness favored for the top of the South Island. What about week 3? Let's see here. Yep, so from the 15th to the 22nd of July, we could see a reduction of rainfall for much of the North Island, so neutral to maybe below normal. Potentially wetter than usual conditions for portions of the South Island. Week 4, yeah, the return of rainfall, green returning for much of the South Island, including the top of the South Island, a good chunk of the North Island. And week 5, yeah, maybe even more wet weather for the end of July, particularly into early August. Look, this will change a bit, but you can clearly see where the green kind of pops up more times than not as I kind of play this through. Week by week, these are weekly chunks. Yeah, you know, and you can see how this western area, if you look toward the west and southwest part of the South Island, remember that area going to our long-range outlook. This area right here, we have favored for potentially drier than usual conditions. We're saying normal or below normal. Well, when you look at the NIWA 35, it kind of jives, doesn't it? I mean, here's week 1. We see a fair bit of brown. And then we go to week 2. It's like, maybe some spotty above normal rainfall for the Alps, but certainly toward Invercargill and Fiordland, a dry lean, let's say. And then kind of neutral week 3, and maybe a bit of wetness week 4. Then the dryness returns week 5. So you can see why we went with that theme over the next 5 weeks for the west of the South Island. Again, we'll have to watch this area because this will be an area, maybe not now, maybe not next month, but I think as we get into the end of the 3-month period, toward maybe September, if this plays out as advertised, we may start to see dryness emerging in that part of the country. And that's where we generate a lot of our electricity, the hydro catchments. And so that's something we'll have to watch more the longer term, even beyond this outlook, you know, towards summer, like November, December, January, and beyond. If what is being indicated actually transpires. So I did say we would have a look at our drought, some of these observations. Let's see here. Do we have that? Soil moisture. I think I do. Wait for it. Caller. I guess not. No. Not in there. Beg your pardon. Yeah, I think that's it. So there you go. The next 3 months looking warmer than usual and looking wetter than usual for much of the country. The best chances for wetter than usual conditions, the top of both islands, and we have to watch out for these flooding rainfall events. I will say in closing, actually, it is worth mentioning that with these rainfall events, going back here, it's one thing to get a big rainfall event, but if we get these compounding rainfall events where, you get a big rainfall event, then maybe a week or so later, half a week later, you get, say, a modest one, but it's falling on wet soil, so the impact is different. So if we start to gain these cumulative rainfall events, the threat for flooding and slips, they're going to go up. So that's really of concern as we progress through the coming 3-month period. I'm Earth Sciences New Zealand meteorologist Chris Brandolino. Thank you for watching. If you want to check out the read or the full document of the seasonal climate outlook, it's earthsciences.nz. I think I got that right. If I don't, please don't. No hate email. We'll see you next time. Nā mihi nui.